Hi there, this is Ashley, and I'm here with Linda Dold, and we're going to talk a bit about her and her journey at Tuscaloosa. So, would you like to introduce yourself and tell me how you came to Tuscaloosa?
As Ashley said, I'm Linda Dold. Ken and I have been at Tuscaloosa for 4 months before COVID, in the middle of 2019. Our previous church, Aloma United Methodist, closed because of heavy financial debt, and nobody was willing to really work hard at it. Of course, we didn't know that it was going down so quickly. We'd been at Aloma for 30 years, which is where our daughter grew up in the church. Our son was old enough that he didn't go there anymore. And looking for a new church after Aloma closed in May of 2019. We tried several different churches, and Tuscaloosa just was full of love. Cheryl Love, Bonnie Latimer, Tom Love, they embraced us and we felt at home.
That's so wonderful. And then I think a lot of people know that you make cards, you give them to everyone at church, it makes them feel so special. Would you like to tell me about how you got into that and if there's any special stories you have connected to making cards?
I started making cards about 25 years ago, maybe even longer than that. And then I got rooked into being a demonstrator for a card making company, or a card supply making company. And I did that for about 20 years. And I just love making cards. It brings out the creativity in me. I didn't think I was artistic. My sister's the artist. She does oils, water paints, everything. And I didn't think I had any artistic ability. But when I started making cards, people started telling me how much they loved the personal touch to the cards. They saved my cards. One of our members from Aloma, when I was doing the card ministry at Aloma, was really down in the dumps because they were quite ill. And when they got a card from me, they placed it on their mantle so they could see it every day. And it just brought joy to them the rest of their life. Unfortunately, they were quite ill. But it brought joy to them. And I've been told by many people that the cards just are so special just because they're personalized for them.
They are really special, and they brighten your day. I mean, you don't get cards often anymore, and it's really nice to get a handmade one.
And now that I've gotten to know so many people at Tuscaloosa, I know who they are, I know some of their interests, and I can really personalize their cards. Is what I've tried to do. Of course, I don't know everybody. Obviously, COVID put a squash to a lot of that, but I still try to find something out about them that, like today I found you like ladybugs. And so their cards have something special for them.
Yeah. I'm here today to learn how to make cards, and if anyone wants to, that's listening to this, Linda would love to teach you, so reach out. But it's a really special ministry. Something else you did that was really special was you worked in schools with ESE kids. Tell me how you got into that and just a bit about that.
I knew I wanted to be a teacher from 4th grade on. When I was in 4th grade, I had a teacher whom I adored. I was new to Florida. He made me feel welcome. He was amazing. He stretched my mind. He pushed me to be the best I could. I was fortunate enough that while I was in 5th grade, he changed to 6th grade. So I had him again in 6th grade and was teacher's pet by that time. But he inspired me to be a teacher. When I got out of high school and went to college, I went for 1 semester and I was going to be a music teacher. And then I got married and I didn't get back to college until 17 years later. In the meantime, when my husband got out of the Air Force, I had to start working. I had been a full-time, 24-hour, 7-day-a-week mom, and then I started working. And in Houston, with traffic and everything, I was away from my kids for 12 hours a day. I hated it. So my mother gave me the best advice ever. My mom said, Linda, use your faith, let go, and let God. So I quit my job. I turned in my resignation, gave 2 weeks notice, and found a job working at a regular elementary school with special needs kids in preschool. My last day was a Friday at my old job, and I started on a Monday. I didn't go without any work. It was a God thing. And I found out that that was where God wanted me. I loved my kids. I still do love my students, even though I have been away from them for 6 years. For various reasons, 6 years later, we moved to Florida, back to Florida. And I decided to get in my 1-year residency and go back to school and be a special needs teacher. I went to UCF, got my degree, and graduated in December, which teachers don't really have a whole lot of choice of where they're going to go in December. So I started working at Jones High School, by the way, the same year that Jeffrey Redding graduated. I was at Jones High School, and I never thought I would like high school, teaching kids, high school kids, but I did. I loved it. That's where my heart was. That's where God wanted me. Because of traffic, because of distance from the house, a year and a half later, I transferred to Colonial High School and spent 27 and a half years at Colonial with special needs kids. My kids were low IQ, physical needs, as well as mental needs. And I loved it. That's where God wanted me.
That's amazing. You talked a lot about communication with me, like really advocating for these kids to have a source of communication. Would you like to talk about that a little bit and how like passionate you feel about that?
It started when I was a paraprofessional in Texas. We had one little kid, he was 4. He was in diapers, he was bottle fed, he was had no communication. He had CP, cerebral palsy, so it affected his speech and motor skills. He was being raised by his dad and 4 teenage brothers. We had him 1 year, and over the summer into the next year, his dad got married, and his stepmom potty trained that child in 2 months. And when we saw him already potty trained and able to tell us using sign language that he needed to go to the bathroom, the teacher that I worked with and myself, we both looked at each other and said, this child is not as handicapped as we thought he was. So we started working on teaching him sign language as a way to communicate. His behavior improved like night and day because he could tell us what he needed. After I left Texas, I still communicated with the teacher I worked with, and she said, eventually that child was put into regular ed classes, not in special needs classes anymore, because he had a way to communicate. Now, yes, he had to have an aide that knew sign language, but he was communicating. Fast forward many years later to my last year at Colonial, and we had a child who was nonverbal, had an IQ probably about 45 to 50. When she first came to us in 9th grade, she was throwing 2-year-old tantrums 3 to 4 days a week. They'd last about 20 minutes each. And because I'd had some behavioral training behind me, I was able to calm her down. And we started using her communication device. She had a computer that she could type in what she wanted to say or use pictures to type in what she wanted to say and communicate with us. And we started forcing her to use it. Her behavior improved drastically. The next year, the first year was 3 or 4 a week, every week. The next year was maybe 3 or 4 a month. The following year, which was my last year with her, she had maybe 1 or 2 the whole school year. But she was communicating. Communication, even if it has to be in an unorthodox way, is so important for kids with special needs.
Yeah, and so many times they'll get overlooked, like you said. I mean, their potential is just untapped, and it's really special that you were a person looking out for them. I know you mentioned your husband. I would like to know how you guys met, and I don't know if you guys have a secret to your relationship.
Ken and I went to high school together. We did not date. We were just good friends. Our senior year was 1968, which in the state of Florida was the last year teachers went on strike. And for 6 weeks, we were taught by, only seniors went to school. We were taught by administrators or teachers that decided to break the picket line. And we were in several classes together. Normally we weren't in the same classes together, except chorus. So we got to know each other and just were real good friends. I'd cry on his shoulder about my boyfriend. He'd cry on my shoulder about his girlfriend. We saw each other July 4th after graduation, and we went both of us went back to the high school where they had a fireworks show, and we started dating after that. In August, he left and went to basic training in the Air Force and called me in October and proposed.
Wow.
And in January, we got married, which is why I only had one semester of college, because in January, we moved from Miami to Panama City. Then we went to South Carolina while he got trained to go to Vietnam. He was in Vietnam for a year. We went to California, which is where our son was born. When Richard was 2 weeks old, we got in the car and drove from California to Houston, to Mobile, to Miami.
Oh my gosh.
When he was 6 weeks old, we got on an airplane and went to Germany. Would I recommend that to anybody postpartum, 2 weeks postpartum? Absolutely not. But again, God was with us and nothing happened. Our daughter was born in Germany. Then we went to North Dakota because my husband has never seen snow. He was born in Houston. He'd never seen snow. So we went to North Dakota. And then he got out of the Air Force after that. And then we moved to Houston to be around his family. His grandmother was ill, so we wanted the kids to know her. And then 6 years later, we moved back to Florida, where the story started. I waited out and got for my year residency and went back to school.
Yeah. I think I know the answer to this, but where do you see God, or what connects you most to God? Like prayer, reading the Bible, music. I think I know the answer is music, but
music.
It is for me too. But tell me a little bit about your background in music and how that helps connect you to God. And
my background is in music. I have always loved music. And like I said, I was going to be a music teacher. Mm-hmm. I majored in music the first semester of college in Miami. When I was in Houston and had a child in my class with cleft lip and cleft palate, and that was his only handicapping condition. He needed the speech therapy. I realized how much God had blessed me to be able to sing. Because here's this child who's only 4, and he can barely speak clearly. He can talk, but his enunciation and his pronunciation was horrible because of his cleft lip and cleft palate. And at that time, I was in my 30s, and I don't think any, at the time I didn't think, I don't have any residual effects from having a cleft lip and cleft palate. When I came to Florida and went to UCF, my speech and language teacher, as I was getting ready to be a special needs teacher, said, "No, you were not born with cleft lip and cleft palate." I said, "Yeah, I was." And I showed her the scars on my face, and she said, "But you don't have any of the speech impediments." And that's when I realized how deeply blessed I am. And music just has a way of touching the heart to open it up to the spoken word of the preacher. Mm-hmm. When I'm sad, I turn on the radio and Z88. Mm-hmm. Music is just the most important. Prayer is second. I pray when I'm doing yoga. You get into a couple of the poses, this one, whatever that one is, and it's just perfect for looking up through your hands and looking at God and saying thank you.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
I would love to get together with people who would like to work on cards, maybe once every 3 months.
Yeah.
Come to my house and we could make cards for our shut-ins. We could make thank you cards or sympathy cards for people who lose people. If anyone interested, I would love to do it. Just let us know.
We definitely want to get that going.
Yeah.
Thank you for talking to me and just letting me come over and
you're welcome.
do the cards. Thank you guys for listening, and I hope you have a blessed day.